afternoon and welcome to Dialogue with Deidre. I'm your host, Deidre Malone. I'm so excited about this show for a number of reasons. My good friend, State Representative G.A Hardaway, who is in Nashville in the thick of it, always fighting for his constituents in all of Memphis and Shelby County. Representative Hardaway, welcome back to Dialogue with Deidre.
And hello and hi to all of your constituents and our mutual constituents. Thank you for having me and thanking you for the work you do in the community. It's nothing more important than informing our constituents.
I appreciate you so much, Rep. And so I want to get right to it because I know you're a busy guy. I was in Nashville a couple of weeks ago being honored by the state Senate. It was about 30 women, so humbled and honored to be a part of that, and had an opportunity to see a lot of young people there in Nashville protesting, specifically around gun reform. And, I know you've been in the fight a long time. I know that was on the heel of the tragic deaths of 6 individuals at the Covenant School, 3 students, young folk, and then 3 adults. And so what has it been like the last few weeks in Nashville for you?
Well, it's been different. Seeing the young folks energized, united, along with the Black community, along with their parents. Some of those young folks' parents are hardcore conservatives. And then we add in the young folk and the community that I represent, which is primarily Black in Memphis and Shelby County.
Right.
And you feel like you've got to keep fighting. You feel like you've got to ramp it up because now you see how much the family, and that's what I call all of our constituents, how much the family is depending upon you to deliver. I extend my sympathies to the tragedy, the victims of the tragedy and the families of those victims in Nashville, Davidson at Covenant School. But Deidre, it also stirs up for me the memories of the hundreds of children, hundreds of mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers and aunts and uncles and cousins and nieces and nephews who have been murdered in just Memphis, Tennessee over the past few years. One of the things I try to do is to stay in contact with some of the families of murdered children in particular. We do a couple of lunches on a regular basis, and we invite the DA out, we invite our judges out and other elected officials so they can keep that connection with the real victims of gun violence, the real victims of criminal gang activity. And we've got to keep in mind, because some of these individuals attend the luncheons, we've got to keep in mind, everyone doesn't die. Deidre, we have individuals who are in wheelchairs and on colostomy bags who attend the meetings, paralyzed, amputees, etc. Why? Because we haven't done what we are entrusted to do constitutionally, and that's provide for the public safety and welfare. We haven't fulfilled our oath and obligations as elected officials, not just state legislators, but from Congress down to the state house, down to the county seat, down to the city council and the mayor's office, and our school system. One of the things that folks don't want to talk about is how we harden, how we secure our schools, how we guarantee that our children and family, the staff, the visitors, the teachers, et cetera, are safe not only in the schoolhouse, but going back and forth to school, safe when they're outside on extracurricular activities. We got a lot to do. We can't get pigeonholed on one thing, and that's what the supermajority would like us to get sidetracked on, and that somebody broke the rules.
Right.
Somebody broke rules, not the law. Somebody broke a couple of old, antiquated rules that they've mistakenly thought that would get rid of this movement to end gun violence.
Well, see, and that's an excellent segue. And I just have to say, knowing you for years and then following you as a true public servant, they're elected officials, but you're a true public servant. I mean, I've seen you with Lorenzen Wright's mother at vigils, being with her and the family. So, some people talk about what they want to do, but I've seen you do it. So, a good transition is like you just mentioned. There were 3 of your colleagues that in the, last few weeks had to come and defend themselves on the House floor for taking the floor to make comments about gun reform. Share with me, because you were right there, you saw it in real time. What were your thoughts about that, Representative Hardaway?
Thank you for that question. The first thing that hit my mind was that it's unbelievable how committed my supermajority is to retaining power and to keeping a sense of, and they don't like it when I put it like this, but keeping a sense of apartheid in our state. And what is apartheid? Apartheid is when a minority controls and has the power of the government. They control the politics and they control the economics. That's what it is. And that's what it was in South Africa. I've got friends who are tracking what we're doing here in Tennessee who live in Africa. And they've made that connection also as to how closely it seems to be the efforts of a few here. It's not all Republicans, mind you, but a few who are in power, who want to retain that power and who want to retain and expand their economic power. Now, how do they do that? They've got to deprive you being the people of color, you being the women, you being the working class and those who are in poverty. That's the you. It's a united you. They have got to deprive you of your constitutional rights. Deidre, one of the things that my dad used to emphasize about rules is that rules, whether it's in the organization or rules in society, and our biggest rule is going to be the Constitution. That's the supreme law of the land. Rules are made to protect the rights of the minority, no matter whether it's the United States of America or the United Nations. So the only way that they can deprive us of what's ours is for us to let them steal our constitutional rights. What happened to those 3 was just unprecedented. Third, fourth time in history that we've had an expulsion. I participated in the last one, which was Jeremy Durham. Jeremy Durham had sexually harassed and to some degree assaulted and had drug use on the grounds, on the site in the Capitol, racist remarks, racist actions between Jeremy and the speaker and staff on how ignorant and dumb Negroes were, insulting language about women. Yes, ma'am. See, they forget about this stuff. I don't. So they want us to forget that we reserved the right to expel a member for breaking the law, not a rule, breaking the law. It's so absurd that we have had times on the floor where we've had individuals stand up regular and say, Mr. Speaker, I know I'm out of order, but they just broke the rule. Okay.
Right.
That happens hundreds of times a year. Okay. The other thing is when I think back on individual legislators, my friend, former House member and former Senator Brian Kelsey. I remember they used to tease him and nicknamed him Stunt Baby. I had no idea what they were talking about. These are his Republican colleagues. And it was while he was in the House. And what kicked it off was him standing up to make a speech on the House floor with an envelope and bacon, raw bacon in his other hand. And he put on he put on the show saying, taking the bacon, putting it in an envelope, and then licking it and sealing it and saying, I'm sending this pork back to whatever, made a big deal out of it. That was breaking the rules.
Right.
The three were charged with props, okay? A sign and a speaker. This guy had bacon, okay? We had another guy that had a cowbell. Yeah, this guy had a cowbell, another representative, had a cowbell, the same type of cowbell that Mississippi State used to use at games in order to do what? To distract and drown out the sound of the quarterback when he was trying to call the signals to his team. That's how loud cowbells are, okay? The NCAA banned the cowbells. We had a guy would ring it whenever he felt like it on the House floor. He was never kicked out. He retired when he felt like it. And I could go on and on.
Well, Rep, I think it was, and we want to name the representatives that were brought before the body, and 2 were expelled and 1 was retained. Representative Gloria Johnson from Knoxville, Representative Justin Jones from Nashville, and Representative Justin Pearson from Memphis. I think it was Representative Jones who mentioned there was a legislator that used the bathroom in the House.
Oh, it's just nasty, just filthy, nasty. Right. We had legislators, still have legislators who don't like each other, Republican legislators. And on this occasion, you had one that urinated in the other's chair, okay? And they never could get him to confess. So what happened? The retaliation was for the other legislator to sneak in and urinate in that member's chair, okay? That's the stuff that goes on in the House by my Republican colleagues, but they mad at the messenger that's bringing a message from the community about murdered children and murdered caretakers of children. They mad at that, but they didn't get mad enough about that type of obscenity. They didn't get mad about that, but they also didn't get mad about fights on the floor, okay? I was approached.
I saw the video.
I'm from Orange Mound, so
you didn't back down.
But I'm a gentleman.
I saw the video.
I was raised where you don't put your hand on other folks' children. Okay, I don't care how old they are. I am my mama and daddy's children. They're the only folks who ever had the right to put their hands on me in anger. And that's the way I was raised, the way I raised my children, especially my baby girl. I'm going to take a little sidetrack here. Men, women, y'all should not be putting your hand on little girls, teaching them that they should accept any kind of physical abuse. And that's my side trip. We'll get back to the
that's another show, but we're gonna have you come back and talk about that. Now, I want to transition quickly, Representative Hardaway, based on the expulsions, and now the members are reinstated. I noticed that Governor Bill Lee this week signed an executive order earlier this week strengthening background checks for gun purchases. He also is asking you all, the lawmakers, to pass a so-called red flag law that would temporarily remove guns from dangerous people. Do you think this piece of legislation that's coming before you guys will go anywhere this session?
I think we may get a little done. It's watered down, the initial bill, the initial legislation that he's proposing is watered down from real legislation that Democrats have proposed. The way that we need to do this is to take a comprehensive approach. We need to take the approach that we've got to stop an individual from wanting to commit violence. That means mental health. That means we've got to put the dollars into delivering mental health care to all of the folks in Tennessee. That means that those who we've identified, if we get suitable legislation to identify those who ought to be subject to red flag regulations, those individuals, they need mental health before, they need mental health when they get caught, they need ongoing mental health care. I don't think we're addressing the problem in the way that it needs to be addressed. It's like any kind of pressure. It's like that dam. You put your finger in one spot, then the other weak spot is going to give. That's what the governor is proposing, and he's still getting pushback from legislators. And we don't have to guess at what the Republicans are thinking, because they said it in that leaked tape. They said they wanted to proceed with their strong gun laws. What gun laws are those? Those are the ones that give permitless carry to 18-year-olds. 18-year-olds, those same folks that are streaking down the middle of Main Street, the same folks who are drinking all night and partying and then get up the next morning and start again. I ain't mad at them because I was that kid. Right? I wasn't fit to carry a weapon around.
Right.
Do you want somebody getting into a fight, 18 years old? And let's go back to the science. The medical research says that up until you are 25-ish, you don't even have a mature brain. So
Right.
young folks don't have small adult brains. They have brains which are still developing. We're still adding parts to it. And that prefrontal lobe, where your impulse control is held, that's where you can control your impulses. You don't do crazy things and then regret them later. That's not fully developed until you're 25-ish. And we're talking about giving weapons of mass destruction because there's no delineation between handguns and long guns, which includes AR-15s, which have been in the news lately as the weapon of choice in these mass killings. We're talking about putting them in the hands of any 18-year-old that wants one without any idea of who has one. Law enforcement has to stroll down the street passing gangs who are bearing long guns, which can obliterate a neighborhood in seconds, and they can't even talk to them. They can't approach them. They can't find out whether they are felons in possession of a weapon. They can't find out whether there's a red flag on one of them. They can't find out whether they have intent to commit mass murders or whether they're engaged in criminal gang activity. It's insane. And once again, that supermajority is pursuing this insanity even after these young folks, thousands of them. Don't let them trick you when they say 100. It was thousands of them. I have been on the Hill since 2007. I've seen tax protests. I've seen the neo-Nazis and the Confederate sympathizers, been in the middle of all this stuff. I have never seen protests this large. They covered the Capitol grounds, not just inside the Capitol, but
outside.
all around the ground.
Outside. And then and it was daily, Representative, because we saw it on the news. Yes. It wasn't just that one day. Yeah. The protests.
They didn't quit.
They didn't. So you're not going to.
Yeah, and they're not going to let us forget. This is the worst possible nightmare for the super conservatives who would seek to control everything and everybody and trample on constitutional rights, because it's a united front. It's a coalition of young folk, of Black and white and Asian and Native American and Hispanic folk. It's a combination of the classes which have been oppressed, whether you work in families, whether you're in poverty. It's a combination of those who have had misogyny, oppression, women. It's a combination of those who are being violated, constitutionally violated, who have sexual identity positions. It's everybody who's been trampled on over the past few years have finally stood up and said, not only is enough, but also until we do enough, we won't stop.
So, Representative, my final question, and because we can talk forever, and I'm going to have to get you to come back and on Dialogue with Deidre, so we can talk after the session's over, so we can recap on those things that you're proud of the legislature passing. But you mentioned something, and I can't let you go without at least touching on it. The Tennessee Holla broke a story about a conversation with Tennessee GOP leaders talking about what happened on the floor, and basically how, Democrats aren't our friends, and, we've got to save the republic. When you heard that audio, what did you think about your colleagues and what they were saying?
Well, I thought at first that, they said we aren't their friends, so I'm relieved of that work. Okay. If they don't want to be friends, fine. Okay. I got friends back in Memphis and Shelby County that I need to pay attention to every day. But it was also disheartening to hear that they had decided that, and I'm quoting them, they're at war.
That's
At
right.
war with parents who are wailing and agonizing cries because they lost their children, who they sent to school and they never came home. You're at war with them. You're at war with women who are being out there sexually abused and assaulted. Those who can't get their tests done on DNA rape kits, you're at war with them now. You're at war with little children who just want to live, and I'm quoting the signage. You're at war with them then? That was, it hurt to hear that out of their own mouths. And then to hear them say that they were the ones protecting the republic. I had a flashback to Benjamin Franklin, and when he was coming out of the Constitutional Convention, where he served as one of the authors of our Constitution. And one of the ladies in the crowd asked him, he said, Dr. Franklin, what do we have? And he responded, a republic, if we can keep it. We're at the crossroads of whether we can keep our freedom, whether we can keep this democratic society where everyone shares in the equality and equity that comes to us by way of the Constitution. So it gave me the strength and the steel to gear up for more fight than I was already prepared for. And it made me think, I need to be talking to my folks, those who want to run in 2024, about coming out now and confronting this foolishness, confronting the madness that we're dealing with on Capitol Hill. If you intend to run for the General Assembly as either a senator or a House member, a representative, then you ought to be engaged in this, because these folks have just told you that they, quote, are at war. And the other scary part was when they said, if Tennessee falls, then the Southeast falls. I'm saying, what? That sounds like some neo-Confederate type of stuff. So all
Like
of the
it
language,
sounds like some Civil War stuff, Representative Hardaway. It was
yes,
like,
ma'am.
that's the kind of conversation I can imagine that they were having back then when they were, anticipating starting this Civil
Whether
War.
they were going to secede
Right.
and from the Union and fight to retain slavery and the right to own other folk. Right? It's whew, y'all get ready because we're in a fight. I don't know about the war that they want, but I know that we're in a fight for our rights. We've always been. And if you enjoy the rights that come to you out of our Constitution, out of our Bill of Rights, then you need to be prepared to fight to retain them. Our parents left us a blueprint, and it was number one, stay awake, stay aware, know what's going on. Number two is to have the courage and the capacity to carry out your convictions. A lot of us believe in stuff, but are you willing to do what's necessary to see your convictions carried out? Do you have the courage to carry out your convictions? Do you have the capacity to carry out your convictions? I got that from what Tawana Stout Mitchell's mama said about you, Deidre, when you became the first woman of a major Democratic party to become the nominee for county mayor. That's what she said she liked about you that had you stand out against those other potential candidates, that you not only cared, but you had the compassion and the capacity to carry it out.
Thank you, Representative. I
And that's
appreciate you
one of
so
the
much.
reasons, Deidre, why you deserve that honor that you got when they brought you up on Capitol Hill and told everybody what a great woman you are.
I appreciate you,
And you
Rev.
my
I
friend.
really
I
do.
appreciate that.
No, and you're my friend, and I just appreciate all that you do for our community, because you could be doing something else, but you're up there constantly fighting the good fight for all of us. And you need to know that we appreciate you. Love it when you come home and fight, but we love the fact that you're up there in Nashville fighting for us. Continue the fight, and we're going to keep you in our prayers, and know that you're going to do what's best for us on the Hill in Nashville. Representative, thank you so much for being on Dialogue with Deidre. And you always have an open invitation to come on whenever there's an issue you want to discuss. Let us know, and we'll have you back anytime, Rep.
Thank you, Deidre. And I want you to know it's never way too early for you.
I appreciate it, Rep. I know.
Maybe she'll tell you about it later.
All right, y'all take care, and thank you so much for watching Dialogue with Deidre every Friday at noon. We'll have the latest information for you. Follow us on all of our social media platforms, Dialogue with Deidre, but you can also go and subscribe to the M1 TV network on YouTube. That's where you'll find our show. Have a great rest of your week and enjoy your weekend. Thanks so much.